Well, would you like to shed more light on the 4.5 billion naira bond, which they say is just about 1.7 billion naira? Trillion naira, okay. Yes.
Again, I hate to sound like a parrot, but they did not read the AMCON Act. AMCON Act Section 28 says, 27, I'm sorry, says that all bonds issued by AMCON, shall qualify for the grant of guarantee under Section 47 of the Fiscal Responsibility Act and shall accordingly be guaranteed by the federal government of Nigeria. That's the law. So once we issue a bond for the purposes set out in Section 6, it is automatically guaranteed. What we did was we went to the DMO, because DMO has an interest in knowing how many bonds are out there, because they're the issue of bonds for Nigeria government, and we liaise with them to get a formal guarantee letter. It's a long process, it takes a long process. And so far, the process, they have actually given us an actual paper for 1.7.
So the others are in waiting.
In waiting. But the law says, legally, they are guaranteed automatically. There's no, the DMO cannot say no. But we like to go through the process because that's another check. Because when we go to DMO, they ask us questions and we answer questions. So we volunteered to go through that process in order to be checked. In fact, our bonds don't have to be registered by the Securities and Exchange Commission. We can do it without that.
What about the
but we went through the SEC just for oversight as well.
What about the fears of investors, which they say the first tranche of the AMCON bonds is supposed to mature in 3 years?
December 2000.
Yes, but the fear now is that it might take longer than necessary. An addition 4 years added to it, that means 7 years maturity period.
Well, I don't know where they get that from, because as told you, I've spent a lot of time with foreign investors. We cannot officially build a book for the bonds. But let me say now, we are very confident that we can refinance these bonds into December 2013. We're 100% certain. So I don't know where this fear comes from. I don't know what it's based on. I don't know what international investors, any of them I've ever talked to. We did a roadshow in London in which Chairman Onyeri came and he saw the room. We expected 60 people. The room was full. It was standing room only of very top investors in the UK. We invited them. We had a roadshow at Abuja to educate the legislators on what AMCON is doing at the Nikon Hilton in May this year. They didn't show up. 3 or 4 of them showed up. So we have tried to educate them. We have this booklet, which I will leave with you, that tells everything about AMCON, how we fund ourselves, what we are, what we do, how we do it. We hand this out to everybody. There's nothing hidden here. If you look at this book, you will see how we intend to repay the bonds we raised.
But you know, they weren't impressed with some of the things you told them, even though you say they didn't call you for clarifications with regards to others. Here they say, well, Mr. Mustafa Chike-Obi was unable to explain the basis and rationale for valuing the book value of loans to the realizable value. So while some of the balances were marked at market at very ridiculous values, others were stated at values higher than their book values.
You see, that is what saddens me, that the National Assembly can say something like this. The valuation guide is gazetted, and I will go through with you without boring your listeners. If it's a loan that's backed by real assets, houses, real collateral, we value the collateral and we take the average of the first sale value and the open market value, and the average of that is how we buy the loan. So if somebody has a lot of collateral, we will pay face value for the loan because the collateral will be more than the face value. If it's an unsecured loan, we pay 5%. That's the guideline. If it's unsecured, because if you look at the history on unsecured loans, on some of them you recover 100%, on some you recover none. So the average for unsecured loans is somewhere around 5% historically. So you pay 5% for unsecured loans. If it's a loan backed by publicly traded securities, we also have a valuation criteria. We take the 60-day moving average plus a 60% premium. It's all gazetted. It's not arbitrary. So when the House of Assembly does a report, and this is publicly available information, They don't check our valuation methodology, which we must publish by law. And then he says we do it arbitrarily, and I couldn't explain it. I can explain it in 2 minutes.
You know what's another thing that's interesting is the process you go through when you go to the DMO. You know, you said you also go to the DMO, and you also sometimes you say you ask SEC to.
We chose to register our bonds through SEC.
Through SEC.
Because of international investors, to deepen the capital market, and to have a third eye look at what we're doing.
In other words, SEC then becomes a regulator at that point in time.
No, SEC is not a regulator of AMCON, but SEC is a regulator of the capital market. So when you choose to go to the capital market, in those situations, yes, they will regulate the issue. But that's different from regulating AMCON's activities.
You don't see that there will be a conflict of interest there, since the DG of SEC is also on your board? Do you think that there will be any conflict whatsoever?
Why would?
Concerning any issue, I mean, since those issues will be going through SEC.
Why would there be a conflict of interest? SEC has its operating policies. I'm an issuer. I apply to issue. They apply all their rules to us. And you would hope that SEC will be objective in dealing with those issues. You would hope.
Well, before you go, I want you to comment on this. It went viral yesterday on social media, as well as some of the headlines. Let me give you the quote. AMCON buys over 150 billion Naira consortium of Access Bank, GT Bank and FCMB loan owed by Femi Otedola's Xenon Petroleum Limited. End of quote. What's AMCON role there? Perhaps some clarification will help some people with this story.
Like I said to you, these 3 loans, Xenon, Geometric, and Seawolf, were 3 loans that were identified as systemically risky for the banking system. These loans were acquired at the same time last year. I think it was acquired in August, these 3 loans. So it's not a new story. We actually had a press release when we bought these loans and said, we're buying these 3 loans for these reasons. We had a press release in August of last year. These loans, the problem with those loans were they're very large. They are across the banking industry. And if something happens to these loans, the banking industry will have a cold.
Where does AMCON get the money from? Is it from taxpayers' money to buy all of these?
I wish. The taxpayers don't have 4 trillion naira to give to AMCON. AMCON issues bonds. The bonds are used to buy these loans. And the bonds clearly have to be financed by private and public interest.
Because the last part of that message was a comment from some people that some of these individuals buy exotic cars, private jets, and at the end of the day, they use their monies, which is the taxpayers' money, to buy up the loans. And you say, well, it's not from the taxpayers.
I would say a few things to you. Delta Steel was a company that owed AMCON. We have taken over Delta Steel. If people owe AMCON money, they will pay. There's no question about that. We are very vigorous in enforcing debt. So nobody whose loans have come to AMCON is happy about it. When we took over the Seawolf loan, they were very unhappy about it. When we took the Geometric loan, the owners were very unhappy about it. Femi Otedola is unhappy that he's at AMCON. People have come to us and said, we don't want to be at AMCON, we'll pay. You will see in the next few weeks other steps that will be taken by us and our regulators to ensure that people who come to AMCON are made to pay every penny they owe. That I can assure you. Nobody gets a free ride at AMCON. And so people that talk about this, it's okay. They will find out in time that coming to AMCON is not a good thing for them, their reputation, or their business.
How would you react to, sorry, Sulaiman, just before we go, how would you react to recommendation 22 that the activities of AMCON be further investigated by relevant authorities as a result of the identified need for a detailed examination of the bond issuing activities of AMCON? Would you have a problem with any investigation, a probe being conducted into AMCON?
I have absolutely no, but when it says probe, there's currently an investigation by the Oversight Committee House of Reps. Currently there's a CBN examination. Let me tell you, CBN examination is the most intrusive examination I've ever seen in my career. They ask questions about everything. So after the CBN examination, I will welcome anybody else who wants to look at what AMCON is doing. But to preempt that, like I said, Everything we do is in this book. If they had read this book, it will have answered 99% of their questions. But they couldn't read this book. They couldn't read the AMCON Act. They couldn't read the CBN guidelines. They haven't read the NDIC Act. They write a report that if this was an elementary school project, I would give them an F.
No, they didn't.
I'll give them an F.
Okay.
Well, anyway, if there are other issues that we want to look at concerning AMCON's role in all of this, we hope to invite you again.
But may I make one last statement? In your program 2 days ago, the chairman El-Sudi unfortunately said people who don't like his report should go to court. We at AMCON think it's better to dialogue, explain, educate. But if he throws down that challenge, and that's the only way we can prove to Nigerians that this is a very shabby report, then we'll take up that challenge. But he should remember that he threw down that challenge first and will not be shy to accept his invitation.